better or much worse. It seemed the same, but there was a sense of, feeling of unsafetyness, that way. But there's no police, and of course people are going to do these things if they're going to be getting away with it. This has been an issue for years, and it's great to go on and say this, that and the other, and use quote unquote the term druggies and come on here, but what are the government actually doing about it?
That's your news. More in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Book your Christmas winter sunbreak in Lanzarote, Tenerife and Gran Canaria.
Tomorrow will be largely dry with a few showers, highest temperatures of 15 to 17 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Kinga Lynch in Donna Bay became her 7th consecutive winner today when she took a call, won the money. Cash machine's been reloaded and the new amount is €30,521 and 73 cents. So text play to 57557, get your entry in by 3 o'clock tomorrow, and then across the go line at the stations. Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings. The exact amount in euro and cents, and the cash is yours. So remember, €30,521 and 73 cents. Over 18s only, test costs €50. You're playing across the go line network of stations. Terms and conditions are on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Oh.
You're welcome along, Football Show. We have live football, obviously, as the evening progresses. Gav Cooney, the 42, in studio. Hello.
How are you, Joe? You alright?
Does anyone call you Gavlar?
No.
A la Gavin and Stacey?
No, I mean, it did happen for a while. And then seemingly, like, James Corden kind of fell out of what acceptable. So I'll also distance myself from that.
Fair enough.
From that moniker.
I wonder if Gavs all over Ireland have been called Gavlar. The back of that.
I'm sure it did happen when I think that was kind of late secondary school for me. I think.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm sure the same fate has befallen us all.
He's had a difficult week, James Corden. I don't know if you've seen this.
Yeah.
The apology for the behaviour in restaurants.
So I saw the statement, the news story go around of his alleged behaviour at a restaurant, and I initially thought I didn't believe it. I was just like, okay, that seems, guy who's not that likeable seems to act in a way that you might imagine him might act to the help at a restaurant. But seemingly, yeah, it is true.
He phoned up and apologised for it. So if it's not true, it was an odd phone call to make on his behalf. Yeah, so I would have thought if you're that well known, that famous in a restaurant,
you'd be surprised to get away with it. But maybe he feels he can't get away with it exactly because he's that famous.
He's done very well for the man from Gavin and Stacey, hasn't he?
Unbelievably well. I always thought that Rob Brydon was the main talent in that show, and obviously he's had an amazing career. Mm-hmm. But I can't quite believe it. Yeah, and wouldn't be a huge fan of James Corden. Wouldn't be a huge fan of A League of Their Own when he was helmed it. But at the same time, he did. I don't know. Did you see the carpool karaoke he did with Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
When they went to a couple of old homes in Liverpool.
It was cool.
It's absolute magic.
Yeah, it's lovely.
In fairness to James Corden.
So the evening, as it looks at the moment, at Old Trafford, we are half-time. It's 0-0 between Manchester United and Spurs. That game's on TV. We've had an eye in the first half. We'll come back to that in a moment. Darwin Núñez has scored for Liverpool. He may not see Mo Salah sprinting in 20 acres of space towards goal screaming, but he can head the ball into the net, that boy.
I figured out Darwin Núñez.
Okay.
He's a legitimately world-class player on the admittedly big caveat that his first touch can always be a shot. It's as soon as he has to think beyond that, have a second touch and consider his options, that's when he begins to struggle.
Yeah.
I saw the first half of that game before I walked in here. He was again the star of the show. Scored a great header, downward header.
Yeah.
Had a great shot, deflect off the post. Had another one of those kind of half volleys when the ball is dropping over his shoulder that he takes first time and it's just over the crossbar. And then there were other moments where his touch was heavy and he wasn't picking out passes. So he's been absolute box office so far this season, I have to say, Darwin Núñez.
Players of that ilk are always very interesting, where they've lots of raw materials, and then the question is, well, can they be moulded? So you would say Raheem Sterling was moulded pretty well under Pep. Now there are still moments where the old Sterling, I think, pops up and even his strike of a ball
under
isn't
Pep,
great.
it seems like a lot of the players didn't really want to be moulded. Definitely Gabriel Jesus left for Arsenal and seems totally liberated.
He does,
to the point where he says, I'm a striker, I'm a proper number 9. This is how I want to play.
That's true. That's a good point. The extent to which they can get Núñez to sharpen that first touch and to see Salah. I think the sharpening of the first touch may just happen in that he's, they're operating at a more intense level than he's used to, and it's higher speed and less space. So I think he might sharpen up in that regard. But is he going to see things?
Yeah,
is always the trickier thing.
That was what Gary Neville said on commentary, wasn't it? That if he's seen Salah and he's decided not to pass to him there, that's bad. But if he hasn't seen him, that's worse.
Okay.
And he does seem to charge with his head down a little bit.
Yeah.
But in fairness, he got substituted in that game in the second half, and I did see a stat coming off that he has a goal or an assist every 96 minutes, and that's more or less one a game. So that's decent impact. But Liverpool's problem is that to play him up front, Salah has been relocated to wide on the right. He played through the centre against City. He started wide on the right tonight, and again wasn't really involved in the first half. And I haven't seen the second half since I came in here, but that's an issue. Like, if they are going to give Darwin Núñez some time to find his feet, which is probably right.
Yes.
They're doing it in a very fast moving environment, in the sense that the teams are, certainly the Arsenal and City, are disappearing over the horizon, and if they're going to have to relocate Salah and blunt him a little bit as well,
yes,
it's a pretty high price to pay for it.
Yes, almost anything at the expense of Salah just now doesn't feel like a great option.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that the big thing dictating his relatively poor form in front of goal this season was his position. Like, he was brilliant at the weekend.
Yeah,
it was as good, and it was a real, like, to now I felt Salah has been so effective in a great system for Liverpool, whereas that game really felt like him grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck in his, just like, this is, Sadio's gone now, this is my team kind of attitude.
Yeah, we'll come back to the fallout from that game in just a moment. It's quite an extraordinary couple of days. Chelsea are 0-0 away to Brentford. Chelsea team changes a lot under Graham Potter. He's either Tinkerman reincarnated, or he's experimenting wildly and trying everybody out in all sorts of ways. So the team this evening, if you're interested, Kepa in goal after his incredible performance against Aston Villa. Back three, Azpilicueta, Chalaboa and Koulibaly, and then Cucurella and Ruben Loftus-Cheek are the wing backs. It's Jorginho and Conor Gallagher in midfield, Mason Mount, Kai Havertz behind Armando Broja. So that's Chelsea this evening. And news, of course, coming through in the last 24 hours or so, N'Golo Kante will miss the World Cup. Your heart breaks when you hear that.
It's really cruel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're getting to that period where, okay, that seems a relatively serious injury. Same with Reece James, same with Diogo Jota. But we're going to get to a point where, in a couple of weeks, where players are forced to play loads of games to fit in the World Cup, then pick up relatively run-of-the-mill muscle injuries that knock them out of the World Cup. And the reason they're out of the World Cup is because it was moved to the winter. It's cruel. It's cruel.
We were just talking about that last night in the news round, and saying that now the 3-week muscle strain the week before the World Cup is devastating. There's not even a, Jason McAteer in 02 where he's got a couple of weeks to get back. Yeah, it's you got to be ready to go.
Like, I say it's cruel. There's obviously degrees of cruelty and wrongness about this World Cup.
It's not top 10 most cruel aspects.
No, absolutely, but it's still completely wrong, And I watched PSG last Sunday, and I was wondering, is Messi going to play here? Because he had a bit of a calf injury a couple of weeks earlier, and you wonder at which point are these guys going to shut down, I mean, maybe they'll give it to the first or second week of November, and then, it's the second week of November, then they're almost there. But you do wonder how the club season will be affected. You won't blame players for not going full pelt now over the next month.
Wouldn't it be interesting to really watch the stats, and even just with the trained eye, watch the games the week before the World Cup?
Yeah,
they're looking around. Let's just calm it down here.
Ourselves, but you couldn't blame them. You really couldn't blame them, And the idea that such a routine little twang can take you out of a World Cup, potentially your only World Cup.
No one wants a twang.
Yeah.
So Spurs at Old Trafford, they have three in midfield. So Basuma is in midfield with Højbjerg and Bentancur. That's been working quite well for them of late, even if it was injury enforced. Matt Doherty plays. Antonio Conte this week saying the player he knew last season is back. Ivan Perisic is the other wing back. Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, Romero the back three, and so it's Son and Harry Kane leading the line. As for Manchester United, Dalot, Varane and Martinez and Luke Shaw, that seems to be very much the first choice back four for United now. Casemiro and Fred go again. Then it's Anthony one side, Jadon Sancho the other side of Bruno Fernandes. Marcus Rashford leads the lines. So a reasonable first 45 minutes. Manchester United with more of the ball and I would say more territory, but that Spurs counter punch is lurking.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw some of the first half just before I came into studio. United much the better team, quite pretty exciting, like quite a loud Old Trafford, responding pretty well to how they were playing.
Of tempo to them.
Yeah, but you will notice who's not playing up front amid the tempo. But maybe that's an unfair thing of me to say. But
shaking his head on the bench.
God, his performative upset is kind of great after a while.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to break down Spurs. They've got a line of 5 across their penalty area. They have another 3 in front of that. It's just so hard to break them down. And United have struggled to break down worse defences that have sat low in recent weeks, like Ammonia, Nicosia and Newcastle. So, you wouldn't heap too much scoring upon them if they can't break Spurs down. And
no.
Spurs did have a couple of decent counter-attacking opportunities. Kane with a shot from a tight angle just before half-time that was led by a thrusting Matthew Doherty down the right wing. So it's obviously good to see him back in the team. It's half-time there.
Doherty did have one moment where Kane, fantastic pass, and Doherty cut inside and shot with the left foot. Just didn't get any curl on it, but it was a good moment for him. So it seems he's winning back Conte, which is
and we were wondering what does Conte demand of his wing backs? That's it. I mean, you literally have to be able to run up and down the full length of the pitch for the whole of the game. So maybe that was why maybe Doherty wasn't showing that last little spark or last little push at training before that. We wondered whether it was a kind of a public trashing or a public provocation. Now, happily for Ireland and for Doherty, it's been a provocation and it's worked.
It has been an amazing few days since that extraordinary game in Anfield. It was what a thoroughly great game.
Great game.
The amount of rancour post the Klopp Friday press conference and the game on Sunday is so striking. So the latest, I suppose, there's 2 fronts Klopp is waging war on. One is him and Pep. There's maybe a cooling of relations based on what Klopp said about how there's no ceiling for 3 clubs in the world and they can spend what they want. And I don't know if Eddie Howe's comments yesterday are connected to the fact that Klopp had a bit of a dig at Newcastle or whether he was just answering the question as he would have anyway. But in effect, Sky Sports News and the media were doing that thing where they go to all the press conferences ahead of these games, these midweek games, and they ask all the managers the same question, and that way they get to compile a bit of a vox pop type thing. And so, like, some of the managers on Klopp's antics, I mean, no one said, oh no, there was no problem with it. But for instance, David Moyes said, look, we've all been there and 99% of the time we're all really pretty good under the circumstances. So, come on. Whereas Howe went for the whole, I think of the children routine.
Yeah.
Like he jumped at that moral high ground when it came to Klopp. And whether that would have happened if Klopp hadn't said what he had said on Friday, I don't know. But it did seem a little bit of a response of sorts. So Philippe Auclair was on with us earlier on talking about the second coming of the European Super League, and we got the sense from talking to him beforehand that he wanted to discuss the Howe situation, so we discussed the Howe situation. He took a dim view of Howe and Pep. Have a listen.
My opinion of them is very, very low. Eddie Howe, I think, his utterances were totally unacceptable, demonstrably false. He also had the cheek to say that Newcastle United's spending over the last year was in sync with the rest of the Premier League, when Newcastle United has spent £240 million net in a single calendar year, which is more than anybody else. And he has the cheek to say that. And then he's the servant of a dictatorship. Whether he likes it or not, whether he realizes it or not, he's a man who is put in front of the cameras and in front of a team and in the dressing room, supporting a project which is driven by a dictatorship, and a murderous dictatorship. And he's not responsible directly for what the Saudi regime is doing. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that at least show a little bit of, reserve.
It was quite something.
It's unbelievable.
To jump on the moral high ground. To jump on the moral high ground over something.
I have no words. I have no words for it, and I think almost every single football fan I've been talking to, and including some Newcastle United supporters, find it very difficult to swallow that. I don't think it would be a problem if Eddie Howe came in front of the cameras and said, we've got loads of money, we're spending it as we see fit, and we respect FFP. I would say, yes, fine. That's absolutely right. Do what you want. We can have our opinion. That's absolutely fair. And don't start giving lessons of ethics to Jurgen Klopp about how to behave as a manager. I mean, I'm sorry. I to be honest, I want to shut up here because I am so incensed by that, and I think many people are incensed by that. At least have the decency to shut up at times. We know who pays your players. We know who pays your salary. We are fully aware of what kind of regime we're talking about. You are owned by a nation state. This is not the case for Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp went overboard, did things that he shouldn't have done, will be punished, apologized, absolutely fine. Don't take the moral high ground.
Philippe Auclair with us earlier on.
No one does controlled fury quite like Philippe Auclair. That's great. I mean, when I read those comments from Howe, well, first of all, he talks about, we're spending in a responsible way, and what Philippe mentions there, which is factually wrong about the net spend in January. I don't really understand when they reference financial fair play. That's never been explained to me. So maybe Newcastle can come out and explain that better. But when he talks about, so he was criticising Klopp for shouting at the linesman and said, I'm conscious that I'm being watched by millions of people, including the children. To which point you're saying, pass the sick bucket.
Yeah.
Like it's when this era of the Premier League is studied for its moral equivocation and its kind of a la carte morals, Eddie Howe is the archetype to look at in that respect, to study. He'll be held up as the example of it, because he's been asked at press conferences countless times at this point to comment on Saudi Arabia's human rights record or whatever latest barbarity has been carried out by his employers. And he's always said, "I'm here to stick to the football. I don't want to get involved in that." And all of a sudden, all of a sudden now he's clambering on the moral high ground and is aware of the example he has to set to the millions of people watching. I mean, the millions of people who are watching his team at Old Trafford, literally decked out in Saudi Arabian colours. Like, it's, I mean, Eddie Howe. I mean, and then he carries on as this kind of holier-than-thou character. He's the good chum. We hear about it like the good chum principle of English politics that seems to have set the entire political system ablaze over there. He's kind of carrying that as well, presumably because maybe he'll end up as England manager if he carries on like this. Oh, it's just, yeah.
Because
it's grotesque.
When he took the job, I think Manchester United have just scored here against Spurs. It's Fred with a finish, side-footed finish, outside the area. Did it take a deflection? It took a massive deflection and nestled in the far corner. Nothing Lloris could do. 1-0 Manchester United, 47 minutes on the clock. When Howe took the job, he had a tough welcome at the hands of the media, and that continued for a couple of weeks, and then it died down a touch, and he just kicked a touch on everything and said nothing and kept his head down and focused on the football. And then the most recent time when it really blew up was back in March of this year, when there were 81 executions over a single weekend in Saudi Arabia. Plus, I think the situation in Russia brought ownership again back under the spotlight. So again, he was asked questions. And in March, what he said was he was still reading up on the situation, having taken the job in November. And again, this was the kind of equivocation and kicking to touch.
I mean, is he literate? Do we know? Is Eddie Howe literate?
Well, he did in the same press conference weirdly talk about how, just so you know the wrong impression, I did when I was 19-20, I would read the Times and get funny look from my teammates. He said on the bus. He said that I'd get in the bus, I'd read the Times. I was very interested in world politics.
Yeah.
But as a manager, I have far less time. So hence I haven't been able to read up. This was his March 2022
What
effort.
date did he cancel his subscription to the Times?
I don't know. But he was reading it in 1920 and his teammates gave him funny looks. He wanted everyone to know, So I kind of thought, well, his policy is going to be say nothing about very little, draw no attention to myself, and certainly not claim the moral high ground on anything.
I know.
So it was a real departure, and I don't know if he fully appreciated what he was saying. He must have, though, this week.
Like,
and it's backfired, I think.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, he could say, look, I mean, there's only 20 Premier League jobs around. I've been out of work for a while. I have to hold my nose here and take this job, and I might be closer to the stench than the rest of you, but all of the Premier League involves holding your nose to some extent. But like for to pronounce, I've no issue in that. I'm just focusing on football, focusing on coaching and training the team and winning games for my football club. Okay, I think that's a bad line to take, because you can't deny that reality forever, particularly given the regime by whom he's employed. But now, as you say, to suddenly become aware of the responsibilities he has as a football manager, it just reflects really weird kind of a la carte morals of the Premier League. You know, they insist on managers and players acting in a certain way. You know, there's obsession about, you know, handshakes and these little kind of emblems of respect. Whereas, you know, and the thing that funds this, and it's not just related to Newcastle, it's related to most of the clubs, no one really kind of pays attention to it. Or certainly it doesn't get the amount of attention than say, a snubbed handshake would on the touchline, etc.
As for Pep and Klopp, it's been remarkable in many ways how good the relationship has been, I suppose, under the circumstances over the last couple of years. Some people think there was a coolness in the handshakes on Sunday on the back of Klopp's press conference Friday. And now Klopp is, and I think potentially considering legal action at this accusation of xenophobia. So I suspect there will be a cooling in that relationship.
Now, Guardiola didn't say that. So, I mean, but you can understand that there would be a cooling between the players and certainly the coaches. I'm amazed that relations haven't frozen before now.
Yeah.
Like, this relationship between the two clubs has been toxic for years. Toxic since some Liverpool fans smashed up the Man City bus on the way to that Champions League tie. Now, Klopp, in fairness to him, gave that a full-throated condemnation on TV before the game. But there's been issues, you know, goes back, wasn't there a story a few years ago that Liverpool had to settle a certain sum for using Man City scouting software, effectively kind of spying on them. So there's been issues with those clubs for ages. And I felt the relationship between Klopp and Guardiola and the respective sets of players maintained, because I felt like game recognised game, in a sense, like these two clubs were, up to the start of this season, so much better than everyone else. They were operating at a level that I'd never seen in English football before, and we've seen very rarely at European football. So I felt that there was a respect there. And like, you know, they don't, and it's a relatively small world if you're a multi-millionaire living in the north of England. Like, you'll mix in the same circles, like Kevin De Bruyne and Virgil van Dijk's kids go to the same school, I think, you know, so they see each other on the school run, so they naturally know each other pretty well. But yeah, I have to say I do agree. I thought that handshake was slightly cool before the game, but Manchester City, like, again, seemed totally embarrassed by all this money that they had spent.
They did, yeah. Because people say, well, it's Klopp completely undermining the job Guardiola has done. To be fair, he did in the same Friday press conference say Pep Guardiola is the best manager in the world. Yeah. So it's not like he completely rained all over the parade.
Yeah, I thought that there were very measured comments. I thought there was a lot of disclaimers before Klopp said his comments, because he knows when a journalist asks a question, generally we ask it with our headline in mind. So he was very careful to add his disclaimers and say, look, this and this, but it is also true to say there are 3 clubs in the world, and it's a fact, like, you know. And look, there'll be clubs lower down the food chain look at Jurgen Klopp, a multi-millionaire employed by an American hedge fund, and say, well, look, I mean, from where we're standing, your resources look endless, you know. But at the same time, it was a fact, you know, that sorry, I sound like Rafa Benitez there. It was a fact what Jurgen Klopp said, and for a City to get so touchy about it baffled me. You know, as I said, if they were so embarrassed by all this money that they've spent, they could just stop spending it. You know? And it's not to say that Guardiola's done a bad job. He's clearly been brilliant, and that's his perfect job, because what does Guardiola do better than any manager before him? It's kind of stretching out diminishing returns. He just takes a team operating at an unbelievably high level and manages to get more out of them through his very precise style of play, but through the players that he wants, etc. And he's a genius at it. You know, getting 100 points and like the best team I've ever seen in English football. But weird, like, you know, they've faced this accusation for years that the money that you spend kind of undermines what you've done. I don't think it undermines what they've done, but it's made possible what they've done.
72 hours on, it's amazing how much controversy there still is about one of the more blatant shirt-pulling fouls you'll ever see. Why? I don't get this. I get Pep's point. There's a lack of consistency. If you're not blowing for fouls throughout a game and then the one time it leads to a goal, you blow it. And I get that, but increasingly I think, well, maybe we just have to accept that that's the way VAR is going to work, and we still accommodate a more free-flowing game, and we just have to deal with that. But there is something off with the logic, I appreciate.
But the problem there is not VAR. The problem is how the game was refereed. Like, where Guardiola has a point, and I have some sympathy for him, is that the referee was letting those kind of fouls go all day. Yeah. So in the context of how the game is refereed, he has a right to feel aggrieved, because he was letting so many of those go. We saw the thing with Bernardo Silva and Salah that so incensed Klopp to chase the linesman.
But do you think it's an okay, if again slightly weird and not the most logical policy, to have one whereby those fouls are let go for the general good of the game, and it was an amazing game at Anfield, in part because it flowed and we weren't stop-starting every few seconds. But when there's been a goal, if VAR takes a look at something and sees a foul that would otherwise be let go in the general flow of things, we're going to punish that foul. Then that's just the way it's going to be, and we just have to accommodate those two things.
But it's such a stupid way of doing it, because then it makes everything so artificial, because you're letting it flow and you're letting these fouls go.
Yeah.
But if it ends in a goal, it'll get ruled out.
There is that.
And the whole point in watching a game is when like a team surge forward, this might be a goal. And then you see a foul and then they let it go and you're like, oh, it might be a goal. Hang on, no, it won't be, because they'll whistle it for this foul.
But then is the only solution, if you don't like what I've just sold you there, and I understand why you mightn't, is the only solution that we just have to get referees blowing for more?
Yeah, what blow for obvious fouls? I mean, sorry, I don't get the cheerleading from. I'll never understand, because we've sat in this studio before and praised.
Not in this studio.
Oh, sorry, we're on the move tonight, listener. But we've sat in an adjacent studio and praised Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, rightly, I feel. But Sky are just cheerleading this. Oh, this let it flow refereeing is so much better. It's not.
Is it not?
I mean, I don't think so. Like, take it to its logical conclusion. Mm-hmm. They're cheerleading the fact that fouls are not being awarded. Some fouls.
Is it more, to be fair to them, because I slightly agree with them, is it not? It's not that fouls aren't being awarded. It's more the 50-50 could be a foul, might not be a foul. They're being let go.
But is a foul.
Oh,
like the stuff that was being let go of the weekend. Like Rodri came through Salah's back, no foul. Bernardo Silva pulled down Salah, no foul. There were other issues. I think there was a Rodri pullback. I'm sure there was some on the other side. Before Man City listeners, fans start texting in.
The one on Salah, which led to Klopp losing his mind, was definitely just a mistake. Like, that was insane.
But he was looking right at it. It wasn't a mistake. Like,
you think the linesman
let it flow, Joe?
Letting it flow.
Let it flow.
Yeah, well, that was crazy. There has to be a line. I just think I would rather that for those 50-50 challenges, which I think increasingly were being blown for all the time, I'm happier for them to be allowed slide a touch.
But I didn't get the impression when this directive was launched by the Premier League, I wasn't screaming out for it. This game has been whistled too much. I have to say, I didn't find
Did
that.
You not?
No.
Well, do you know where? Well, sorry, I wasn't screaming out for it either, because I just thought, well, this is just the way modern football has gone. And then the Euros happened.
Yeah, but
and I thought, well, this I recognise this game. These are fouls where I understand
Did
what
you
a foul
think
is. Yeah, I thought the Euros really had a great balance.
Sorry, I realise I'm talking about interruptions while interrupting you. I apologise, but were the interruptions not the fact that they kind of used VAR a lot less? Like, is that not where the interruptions had been?
No, I felt that the Euros, there was the handbrake went down a touch.
Yeah.
There were certain tackles that had been blown for the previous 5, 6, 7 years that were let go again, and there was that week, the first week of the Euros, of players turning to the referee saying, "What's going on?" But I think by week 2, they had felt out the boundaries again.
Maybe.
Now, maybe on Sunday, to be fair, like the pull on Salah in particular, then that's the handbrake down all the way.
I thought the referee lost control of the game completely, I have to say. And Guardiola was joking that had been a meeting beforehand among
I took that literally.
Yeah, it seemed like the referee went in to tell them,
yeah.
Which is, it's kind of like rugby referees in the sense that remember Declan Lynch used a great line in the show a while ago, that they're treated almost like movie auteurs. Like, this is my game, this is the stamp on which I'll put it.
Yeah.
But are these directives been brought in to create a better game, or has it been brought in to make the managers go mad?
I mean, I wouldn't think it's been brought in to make the managers go mad.
Is that not? Are the Premier League not thinking, well, that's a happy, perhaps intended consequence?
This is content.
Like with the Tuchel Conte stuff, that was the other real example of letting it flow. I actually can't remember who the referee was on that occasion either.
Who was the referee on Sunday?
Anthony Taylor.
Okay.
Anthony Taylor.
I never care. I never know who the referee is.
Yeah.
Because Neville made the point, it takes a real confidence to ref the way he's refereed. As in,
I found that so patronising.
He's creating his own rules almost.
I mean, that is so patronising. Like, I couldn't believe, and like, he's refereeing how Neville wants it, which is not to give fouls.
Yeah.
I don't understand how refereeing is improved by the non-awarding of fouls. Because take that to its logical conclusion, and the game could not be better if you remove the referee entirely.
Well, I know. I'm not saying fouls. 50-50s. It's a more loose interpretation.
Yeah. I mean,
There were still frees given in this game.
On principle, I would think you're right. I would agree with that.
Right.
In practice, I've seen a lot of high-profile Premier League games. Usually, the ones that are in prime time on Sky get there and go straight way beyond the line. There are 70-30 fouls because they're like, play on.
Yeah. Maybe there is that. It turns out Anthony Taylor was the referee that day between two.
He was he? Okay.
They send him to drive managers mad.
He's prime wind-up merchant. But I do think there's a slight, the Premier League's kind of like a TV show, and I enjoy it for those purposes. I'm as implicated as anyone else.
Yeah.
I think there is a slight let's really test these guys, make it like a Bush Tucker trial, and see how they react.
Well, as a final thought as we head towards ads, I do concede where it falls down a touch for me is I like the idea of letting the game flow, but then that contradiction whereby when a goal happens and VAR intervenes, suddenly the rules are applied again.
Yeah.
I can see how Pep says, I don't mind what it is, but let me know which rules we're playing by.
Yeah.
Don't have it depends if there's a goal scored or not deciding these decisions. There is something problematic there.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you.
Okay. Good. That's how we like to run this show, Gav. The football show is brought to you by Sky. Watch Man United face Spurs tonight. It's live only on Premier Sports. We'll take a short break. We'll update you on everything going on across all the games in just a moment.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch all the football you love, including the biggest Premier League games every weekend. Live on Sky.
This is News Talk. The Pat Kenny Show.
When you get a sudden onset of a lot of rain overnight, flooding everywhere.
This is the first of our autumn storms, isn't it, Pat? The weather pattern, as you were hearing earlier on, it's set to be like this for at least a week. They cause merry hell on the roads. At best, they cause traffic congestion. I was going to drive in this morning, had a look at Google, said it would take me over an hour, so I had to get on the bike and got here in half an hour.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With Aviva Insurance.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on News Talk.
Sustainability is no longer on the agenda, it is the agenda. The government is committed to reducing emissions, and for Irish businesses, that means taking action now. Enterprise Ireland's Green Transition Fund provides funding supports to build company capability, develop sustainability plans and invest in decarbonisation. Visit enterprise-ireland.com and make sustainability your business. The Green Transition Fund is an initiative of the Government of Ireland funded under the European Union's Recovery and Resilience Facility.
Our wide range of 2023 Skodas are going fast. This is the sound of the Breen family getting their powerful diesel Kodiaq. And this is fully charged Fiona, driving away in her electric Skoda Enyaq. And this is the sound of someone who didn't place their order in time. Order your 2023 Skoda today, before it's too late. Skoda, made for Ireland.
Things are changing fast, but at Tesco, our prices aren't. At times like these, everyone needs a little stability. That's why we're locking hundreds of low prices on everyday products until 2023. It's just one of the things we're doing to help you spend less with us. Because right now, every little helps. Low everyday prices includes hundreds of products across our larger Tesco stores. Excludes Express stores. Prices locked until 3rd January 2023. Look out for the low everyday prices logo in store and online. See tesco.ie for more.
The autumn event at Easy Living Interiors is now on, with big reductions on all ranges. Imagine the possibilities. Curled up with a soft throw on your snug new sofa. Relaxing with family and friends round your new extending dining set. Reimagining your bedroom with a cozy velvet bed frame. Or giving your home a warm glow up with our new lighting collection. The autumn event at Easy Living Interiors, now on in Cork, Dublin, Navan, Naas, Wexford, Waterford, Carlow and Drogheda.
You can rely on a Giga home. You can Giga stream all Giga weekend. You can feel Giga safe as your kids hop online to have Giga fun, and you can Giga boogie in your Giga basement. Vodafone Giga Home combines super Wi-Fi, always connected, and secure net for a broadband connection you can always rely on. So get on the Giga train. Search Vodafone Giga Home to find out more. Vodafone, together we can.
Subject to location and availability. Giga Home is subject to subscription. Cancel any time. Eligibility limitations and terms apply. See Vodafone.ie.
No tax, no fuel costs. Improve mental health and fitness. Electricpaddy.ie. Avoid traffic and public transport with an electric bike. Make an appointment for a consultation to find the best option for you. Official MS Energy distributor. Cycle to work scheme. Company and group discounts available for the right e-bike. Go to electricpaddy.ie.
Everybody's talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning. I need to upskill.
Then do the ICT SkillNet certificate in AI.
Is it online?
Yeah, 12 weeks part-time with live lectures and one-to-one mentoring.
Expensive?
No, it's part-funded. Apply at ictskillnet.ie.
Eligibility criteria apply. This programme is part funded by the Technology Ireland ICT SkillNet through SkillNet Ireland.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. So the goings on this evening: Southampton 1-0 winners full time away to Bournemouth. We have a full time result: Brentford 0, Chelsea 0. Liverpool 1, West Ham 0 as a full time. Darren Núñez with an excellent header. We have a full time between Newcastle and Everton, 1-0 to Newcastle against Everton at home. Almiron with the goal, and 65 minutes on the clock. Manchester United 1, Spurs 0. We were just there. Gavin Cooney is with us at 42, looking at the Amazon coverage pre-match Brentford-Chelsea. They managed somehow to get both managers together as part of the panel, and they were having a chat, which is amazing.
Thomas Frank asking questions of Graham Potter, along the lines of, why do you keep changing the formation? Which is great that A, managers are asking each other questions, but also B, that Thomas Frank manages to ask the question that most Chelsea fans have been asking.
Wow.
So good journalistic instincts from Thomas Frank.
Yeah.
Really great. I think that Graham Potter's answer was kind of confusing. It was along the lines of, formation isn't really our end goal or something. Something quite corporate. But, it's what the players, how we want to play, and then we need to look consistent. The answer wasn't great.
No.
And then unfortunately the Amazon host interjected when Frank was going to follow up. But
I've been out of this conversation long enough. Let me back in. You two Premier League managers.
These anchors couldn't possibly have ego, though, could they?
Apparently they do. It's a thing. So, European Super League. We knew this day would come, didn't quite know in what shape. The gist here is they have appointed a new CEO. His name is Bernd Reichart. He is a German media executive. He is the CEO. A22 Sports Management are the company representing what is in effect the European Super League, funded by 3 clubs at this stage, the stubborn 3, Real Madrid, Barcelona and Juventus. And so Bernd has been speaking to the Financial Times today, amongst others, and he's saying 2024, that's when this thing is going to launch. He says the original idea, obviously, which infuriated everybody, was to have a closed shop. He's saying that won't be the case. With this version, there'll be a blank slate. He said format will not be an obstacle. It'll be an open format. Permanent membership will be off the table. So, there's some big concessions in comparison with the original idea back in April of 2021. And where that goes, I don't know. The European Court of Justice currently set to rule on UEFA versus Real Madrid, Juventus, Barcelona in December, full ruling to come spring 2023. I don't know what that's going to find or what that is going to mean necessarily. Philippe Auclair was on earlier. He thinks UEFA and these European Super League guys will sit down and hash something out, and there's just a bit of leverage going on at the moment. The very interesting thing is that Martin Ziegler in the Times has looked at a dossier which is spreading amongst all the clubs of continental Europe. And I suppose the European Super League are saying, come join us because England is ruining everything, is about the gist. So England, the top flight, is outgunning all continental leagues, they say. The Champions League is, quote, increasingly dominated by English clubs who, quote, are backed by hedge funds, public investment funds, sheikhs and oligarchs, end quote. And they say it's no longer a truly open European tournament, increasingly dominated by the English clubs. Few continental exceptions are trying to keep up. So the England versus continental European divide was not an aspect of April 2021, but it seems to be the way now.
But it was baffling. It didn't really make a lot of sense that the English, none of the Super League in its format and how it was marketed made sense in 2021. One of the least sensible aspects of it was that the English clubs wanted to be in it all. They were going to kill their own golden goose. They were going to continue competing in the Premier League, but its value would have diminished. You know, I mean, there wouldn't be a race for Champions League football, etc. Their priorities would not necessarily have been on the league, and they would have been, you know, what's motivating Florentino Perez et al. Is the fact that these guys have the money.
Yeah.
We need some money, so they were gonna. So Perez's plan was A, to get the English teams to kill their golden goose, and then B, I'm going to get a share of the revenue of their new revenue. So it made no sense that they wanted to join it, and I think that's a better PR push, shall we say, from the clubs in Europe. Like, why do we want into this competition? Because the English Premier League is the Super League.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even in its kind of literal terms, it's a breakaway league. You know, what the three clubs go into the European Court of Justice want is the ability to set up their own competition, independent, not necessarily independent of UEFA, but commercially independent of UEFA. So they would set themselves up as the shareholders. They would say, we're taking the risk here. But there is no risk because it's a license to print money. Yeah. And then UEFA can get on with organising the referees and the rules, etc. That's the same structure as the FA has with the Premier League, you know, and the Premier League then is more nimble, able to sell its rights and etc. etc. So that's effectively, you know, and is a breakaway league from the old Football League, and the money is all in England, you know, and it's. You look at it in the Champions League group stages, like these players like Kamara left Marseille to go to Aston Villa for now a relegation battle. Diego Carlos left Sevilla, who are in the group stages, to go to Aston Villa who are in a relegation battle. Matheus Nunes left Sporting, who are in the Champions League, to go to Wolves, who are in a relegation battle. And the idea is, like, I mean, it's better to be in the Premier League than at the Champions League. And look, if I'm in the lower reaches of the Premier League, there's a better chance I'll get spotted by one of the top teams. So you can understand why these clubs in Europe have want to catch up and want to breach that divide, and that the Super League, by appealing to those clubs, is certainly a more coherent and better PR strategy than the previous effort, which seemingly was Florentino Perez going on El Chiringuito at midnight every night for a week and explaining that football is sick, no one is watching this.
And they had a logo, to be fair to them, there was it.
Oh my word.
This logo. How do you think this all plays out?
Who knows, but there's just so much money in the game. It's so unequally divided, and everyone is so greedy and self-interested.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to see some kind of massive rupture coming down the line. Now maybe, I don't know, I think maybe the scenario in which things change the least is that this European Court of Justice ruling comes out. Now, it might say UEFA have the right to continue organising football, and then maybe it probably goes away. Like, then they have no legal basis to organise their own competitions independent of them. I think what will ultimately happen is that there will be a league. Maybe it'll be like a continental Super League as opposed to the Premier League, of a similar structure to the Premier League, where you might have 20 clubs / shareholders from around Europe, pluck, you know, Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, Bayern, Dortmund, Juventus, Roma, etc. And maybe they come together to compete against the Premier League, and then maybe UEFA survive then as the kind of the competition that the Champions League survives, the competition that pits these two leagues against each other. I don't know.
That's disastrous for their national leagues, but I mean, that's a league
I would
willing
absolutely
to
watch it. Absolutely, because the money is destroyed so many of the national leagues, like,
all of them. French destroyed, German destroyed.
You know, but Bayern are going for a 10th title in a row.
Yeah.
Jurgen Klopp was the last non-Bayern manager to win a league in Germany. Yeah. Like, it's extraordinary. Now, we thought the same. You know, people will say maybe it's a cyclical thing. We thought Juventus were going to dominate to this extent in Italy, and then they just kind of ran themselves into the ground. But they didn't have the financial headroom, to use a horrible phrase, to absorb their own mistakes, whereas Bayern do in Germany, PSG do in France, and the big two do in Spain.
Fred has scored for Manchester United. They're 2-0 up, 72 minutes on the clock now. Sorry, Fred hasn't scored. Fernandes. Fred took a shot.
Yeah.
See, Fred was at the heart of all these goals this evening. Fred took a shot and it broke for Fernandes, and it was a really good finish. He opened up his body, side foot, far corner, really classy finish. Fernandes, and Fred scored the first, if you're just tuning in. So 2-0 at home to Spurs.
That's a really good result.
It's no bad thing.
You know, because excuse me, United's strengths so far this season have been counter-attacking, you know. So you might argue, well, that was kind of going back to Solskjaer. But this is a game in which they've been allowed to counter-attack, because Spurs have said come on to us.
Yes.
Which they have. Now, I didn't see the second goal. The first goal is the kind of goal that a low-lying defence is liable to concede, in the sense there's a shot from the edge of the box and it deflects in off a defender in.
This is very similar, and it's a shot from the edge of the box which breaks to Fernandez and he pounces on it. So they weren't cutting them open on either occasion, really.
Yeah, but you know,
it's hard.
People will say it's lucky, but look, you know, the bolder side should get rewarded with fortune, and I think that's happened there.
Yeah. We will take a very short break. The football show is brought to you by Sky. Manchester United Spurs tonight, live only on Premier Sports. Back in 1 sec.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, watch all the football you love, including the biggest Premier League games every weekend. Live on Sky.
This is News Talk.
Want to get away from it all this autumn? Then get on gobreaks.ie. Our holiday home deals start from only $4.99 for a 3 to 7 night stay. Or choose a relaxing hotel room from just €80 per night. And for families, kids stay free this midterm. With Go Breaks, you can save up to 25% with free breakfast included. So go explore this autumn with Go Breaks, as recommended by News Talk.
Go Breaks.
T's and C's at gobreaks.ie.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlene Murphy. And I'm Ellie Kelly. And we present the Hold My Drink podcast with Go Loud, and next month we're taking the show on the roads. Join myself and Charlene for Go Loud presents Hold My Drink Live at Vicar Street, Monday, November 7th and Tuesday, November 8th, which is proudly sponsored by Primark. We're so excited to see you there. We'll have our special guests, all your podcast favourites like Wait Till I Tell You, Sip or Skip, German Word of the Week, and Charlene is going to sing. I'm not going to sing. Do you wanna dance, baby? See, I told you you'd sing. Tickets are on sale now for $35.50 plus booking fee and available from Ticketmaster. We'll see you in Vicar Street. Woo.
6 wardrobe clear-outs, 3 look changes, 1 night in a hotel lost and found, and 10 years of being your favourite. It's fair to say that cardigan has staying power. Irish design and craft isn't just made local, it's made to last. Support makers and find something you love for ages at madelocal.ie. Made local, made to last. Supported by Design and Crafts Council Ireland.
Hey, who's coming to the permanent TSB Ideal Home Show?
There's energy-saving advice and thousands of ideas to inspire your ideal home at the RDS this weekend.
Paul agreed to bring his elderly neighbour shopping without realising she's such a devout middle-aisle shopper. He now has to make space for his neighbour, a TV and a gazebo. Thankfully, Paul's new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV offers best-in-class boot space, 3 flat-folding individual rear seats, and all with advanced comfort technology. Comfy neighbours guaranteed. The new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV, as generous as you are. Visit citroen.ie.
Harvey Norman is your home of energy-efficient appliances, like the AEG Command Wheel multifunction oven with built-in recipes, just $1,349. Pair with the matching AEG Compact Combi Quick Microwave Oven, just $1,409. Or the AEG 80cm induction hob with self-sizing cooking zones, just $1,365. Claim €200 cashback on each product, or buy all 3 and get an additional €100 Harvey Norman gift card. Harvey Norman, your home of energy-efficient appliances.
T's and C's apply. See in store or online for details. You're hearing the sounds of a street in India. For Yotsna, a 65-year-old lady, sounds were all she had. She developed cataracts that in Ireland are easily treated. But because she couldn't see, she was abandoned by her family. People like Yotsna are the reason Specsavers support the Hope Foundation, an amazing charity who restored her sight. And when she could see again, they also found her place to live. Find out how we're changing people's lives for the better at specsavers.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
Welcome back. Can we take a moment, please? Gavin Bazunu, clean sheet this evening.
First one in the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, 1-0.
Saw it on Twitter. Not an easy, hasn't been that easy a start for him, but you know, a lot of mitigation down to the team he's in. But was that 1-0 away to Bournemouth?
Is that, say again?
Was it Bournemouth?
Yes, excuse me, 1-0 away to Bournemouth, yes, sorry. Adams scored on 9 minutes, and then Bazunu, well, I don't know if he made loads of saves. Let's just say it a storming game.
Said a great game.
Because, look, it would be entirely possible for his confidence to be a touch shaky, having conceded all these goals, but he's done well in the midst of picking the ball out of his net far too often.
I think so, yeah. He's not been he's not been amazing. He's not been. I remember seeing him against Serbia for Ireland, and that was, oh my God, this guy's a genius. He hasn't had that, but he's made some good saves. Obviously, he can't single-handedly repel all of Southampton's opponents, given the capacious room they give opponents to run through on his goal. And you know, he didn't exactly have a great international break for Ireland. There's that. Which of the goals against Azerbaijan or against Armenia he should have saved. But you know, he's still so young, and if he can adjust to the Premier League reasonably well and keep his confidence and keep his place, it's a great thing for Ireland.
Scott Hogan scored this evening, 80-minute equaliser for Birmingham against Burnley. Will Keane scored for Wigan as well. They lost 4-1 at home to Middlesbrough. Premier League continues tomorrow, so it does look like Manchester United will see this out 2-0 up with 10 minutes to go. Tomorrow, Fulham, Aston Villa and Leicester, Leeds. In Aston Villa against Fulham and in Leicester against Leeds, we have two managers under pressure. A grim question would be, which of the two departs first?
Mauricio Pochettino is lurking with intent,
that's
certainly in regards to Aston Villa.
That really follows to your World Super League point, that Pochettino will take the Villa job because the money's so good and the players are, you know,
and there is an interesting piece in the Telegraph saying that, you know, why would he want Villa? Well, he would have control, you know, that he definitely didn't have at PSG, and he didn't have to an extent at Tottenham because Daniel Levy so rarely opened his wallet when Pochettino was in charge.
True. It's not a bad squad either. Watching them outplay Chelsea at times, I thought to yourself, there's a lot of good technicians here.
They've got, I'm pretty sure this is accurate, they've got the second highest wage bill outside the top six.
Wow.
You know, and they've got some really quality players, and that's not a good look for Steven Gerrard that they're just outside the relegation zone. And they kind of went under the radar a lot last year, I feel. They made a good start, and then they're never really in relegation bother, but they were never going to progress to the top half. And then he sees Gerrard say before the Chelsea game that Chelsea should be coming here and wiping the floor with Aston Villa. That's a bit, you know, I know Gerrard is among the most defeatist men in football history, but that is a bit defeatist. I mean, Chelsea are under a new manager. They're better than you. They should be winning. But wipe the floor at home? Come on, man. You'd be a bit more optimistic than that.
It's funny because we were chatting with Mick last night, a Villa supporter. Mick McCarthy, not just Mick off the streets. Mick. And, well, I was going to say, there's this problem in that anytime I've seen them, they played quite well. So a lot of us would have watched them play very well against Chelsea, lose, as can happen against Chelsea,
draw against Man City,
goals, draw against Man City, but like then get booed at Villa Park for playing very well against Chelsea. And the general consensus amongst Villa fans is it just hasn't been very good outside of those more high profile games. In particular, breaking down teams they should be breaking down is appallingly bad, and they look bereft of ideas. So again, that would fall at Steven Gerrard's doorstep. But it's a big time for him. I don't know where he would go.
Oh, this is the key season for him, you know. He'd like, I thought winning the league at Rangers was a great achievement. Do it unbeaten, break the Celtic 10 in a row. But unfortunately, in England, you won't get a lot of credit for achieving something in Scotland. Whether that's fair or not, I'm not sure. But that's the reality. So this was his first full season in the Premier League. This is the defining one. And unfortunately, he's not really going well. He's not helped by the fact that his old teammate Felipe Coutinho is out of form. And you know, Coutinho is a very strange player. Individually, he's clearly got fantastic talent. But generally, teams usually click after he leaves the club. Hamid at Liverpool, Hamid to an extent at Barcelona when they got him out of there. He's just such a strange player, such a difficult player to fit into any system. And he has to be playing so well individually to justify including him.
Yes. Well, they have Fulham tomorrow, so that could be an interesting evening. We are pretty much out of time. OTB AM coming at you tomorrow morning. Shane Hannon, Johnny Ward will be on. Vinnie Perth will be doing You Have to Be There. Tony Evans will be on as well. I suspect he's got interesting things to say about the week that was. Nathan in the hot seat tomorrow. Nathan Collins is going to be on the show tomorrow, which should be an interesting chat. Lots to talk to him about. So that is the general plan tomorrow. Gav Cooney, the 42, thank you very much.
Thanks a million, Joe.
Much appreciated. We will talk to you tomorrow. Tom Dunn is on the way next.
On radio, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud, and smart speaker. Play News Talk.
From cooperative roots to global success, Glanbia Ireland has come a long way. And now we have a new name for the future, Tyrlawn. At Tyrlawn, we value life in perfect balance. From the land we farm to the customers we serve, building on our heritage of wholesome nutrition, caring for our communities and for generations yet to come. We believe we can thrive only by working together. It's what sets us apart. Tier Lawn, the new name for Glanbia Ireland.
It's over.
Go, don't look back. Go get your life back on track. Though there's hurt, though there's pain, this car can't compete with the dream. I drove you away, I wasted your time. You told me we've come to the end of the line.
Break up with your car. Love 20% off fares with Iarn Road Éireann.
Part of the Transport for Ireland network.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlene Murphy. And I'm Ellie Kelly. And we present the Home I Drink podcast with Go Loud. And next month we're taking the show on the roads. Join myself